We are going to be listening and analyzing Act 1, Scene 2 of Romeo and Juliet using myshakespeare.com. So this is immediately after the street fight while Lord and Lady Montague are talking to Benvolio. This conversation is happening between Lord Capulet, Juliet's dad, Paris, and a servant. And remember, Paris is related to the prince. He is a count, so he's a little higher up than the Capulets. He's older than Juliet, but he is interested in marrying her. So let's go.
But Montague is bound as well as I, in penalty alike. And 'tis not hard, I think, for men so old as we to keep the peace.
Of honorable reckoning are you both, and pity 'tis you lived at odds so long. But now, my lord, what say you to my suit?
But saying o'er what I have said before, my child is yet a stranger in the world. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. Let 2 more summers wither in their pride, ere we may think her ripe to be a bride.
Younger than she, our happy mother's maid.
All right, so let's see. Paris really wants to marry Juliet. Capulet says no. She hath not seen the change of 14 years. So Juliet is only 13 years old. She hasn't turned to 14 yet. She'll be 14 in a few weeks. And he says, let 2 more summers wither in their pride. So let's wait till she's about 15 or 16 for her to get married. And Paris says, younger than she are happy mother's maid. So he's implying that girls who are 12 years old, 11 years old are having babies. Yes, that does happen in the world, but just to remind, in Shakespeare's England, that wasn't usually the case. All right. So this would have been shocking to the audience during Shakespeare's time to say, what, a 12-year-old girl having a baby? And then Lord Capulet says, and too soon marred or damaged are those so early made. So Capulet does not want her to get married so young, because we're going to find out that all his other children have already died. Okay, let's listen along.
And too soon marred are those so early made. The earth hath swallowed all my hopes but she. She is the hopeful lady of my earth. But woo her, gentle Paris, get her heart. My will to her consent is but a part. And she agree, within her scope of choice lies my consent and fair according voice.
So we see Lord Capulet tells Paris to woo her, get Juliet to fall in love with Paris. And if she agrees to marry Paris, Lord Capulet will agree to the marriage. This was a little odd for nobility at that time period. Usually the father, the nobleman, would decide who his daughter would marry. And Capulet, he's a little forward thinking and he's saying, hey, you know what? I'll have my daughter decide who she wants to marry. Now we're going to find out there's a party that's going to be happening at the Capulets.
This night I hold an old accustomed feast, whereto I have invited many a guest, such as I love. And you among the store, one more most welcome, makes my number more. At my poor house look to behold this night earth-treading stars that make dark heaven light. Such comfort as do lusty young men feel when well-apparelled April on the heel of limping winter treads. Even such delight among fresh female buds shall you this night inherit at my house. Hear all see, and like her most, whose merit most shall be. Which on more view, of many mine being one, may stand in number, though in reckoning none. Come, go with me. Go, Sirrah, trudge about through fair Verona. Find those persons out, whose names are written there, and to them say, my house and welcome on their pleasure stay.
So now we see a Capulet servant. He has to go around Verona. He has to trudge about through Verona and invite people to the party. So he's got a list of names, but the servant is illiterate. He cannot read. He doesn't understand how to read. So he needs to find an educated person, usually a wealthy person, to read this list for him.
Find them out whose names are written here. It is written that the shoemaker should meddle with his yard, and the tailor with his last, the fisher with his pencil, and the painter with his nets. But I am sent to find those persons whose names are here writ, and can never find what names the writing person hath here writ. I must to the learned in good time.
Tut, man. One fire burns out another's burning. One pain is lessened by another's anguish. Turn giddy, and be helped by backward turning. One desperate grief cures with another's languish. Take thou some new infection to thy eye, and the rank poison of the old will die.
Your plantain leaf is excellent for that.
For what, I pray thee?
For your broken shin.
Why, Romeo, art thou mad?
Not mad, but bound more than a madman is. Shut up in prison, kept without my food, whipped and tormented, and good e'en, good fellow.
So we see the servant. He happens to come upon Benvolio and Romeo, who are still talking about Romeo's broken heart. And the servant can see that they're wealthy, they're educated, and he's going to ask them for some help in reading. The ironic part is it's a Capulet party, and he's asking Montagues for some help in reading the list.
God give good e'en. I pray, sir, can you read?
I, mine own fortune and my misery.
Perhaps you have learned it without book, but I pray, can you read anything you see?
I, if I know the letters in the language.
Ye say honestly, rest you merry.
Stay, fellow, I can read. Signor Martino and his wife and daughters, County Anselm and his beauteous sisters, the lady widow of Vitravio, Signor Placentio and his lovely nieces, Mercutio and his brother Valentine, mine uncle Capulet, his wife and daughters, my fair niece Rosaline and Livia, Signor Valentio and his cousin Tybalt, Lucio and the lively Helena. A fair assembly. Whither should they come?
So we see this list here. All right, let's see. We've got Mercutio, that's Romeo's best friend, who is invited to the party. He is related. Yeah, he's related to the prince. Rosaline is also mentioned in there. That's the girl Romeo's in love with. And then we see Tybalt, who was just part of that street fight, okay? I'm going to have to read aloud a little bit because it appears the audio is off. Whither should they come? Up. Whither? To supper, to our house. Whose house? My master's. Indeed, I should have asked you that before. Now I'll tell you without asking. My master is the great rich Capulet, and if you be not of the house of Montagues, I pray come and crush a cup of wine. Rest you merry. So we've got Romeo and Benvolio just got an invitation to the party if they're not Montagues, but it might be a convenient place to go. Benvolio wants Romeo to check out some other girls. Romeo wants to check out Rosaline. It's very convenient.
At this same ancient feast of Capulets sups the fair Rosaline, whom thou so lovest, with all the admired beauties of Verona. Go thither, and with an unattainted eye compare her face with some that I shall show, and I will make thee think thy swan a crow.
When the devout religion of mine eye maintains such falsehood, then turn tears to fires. And these, who often drowned could never die, transparent heretics be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love, the all-seeing sun ne'er saw her match since first the world begun.
Tut! You saw her fair, none else being by, herself poised with herself in either eye. But in that crystal scales let there be weighed your lady's love against some other maid that I will show you shining at this feast. And she shall scant show well that now seems best.
I'll go along, no such sight to be shown, but to rejoice in splendor of mine own.
So Benvolio wants Romeo to check out some other girls. And he says, once you look at some other girls, you won't think Rosaline is as beautiful. And Romeo says, never saw her match since the world begun. So Romeo thinks she's the most beautiful thing in the world. He's going to change his mind pretty quickly, though, once he sees Juliet. Take a minute on Shakespeare.com. Look at these character interviews with Capulet and Paris with Romeo. You can find them at the bottom and also underneath the videos. They're very interesting and they get into the character's mindset. All right, we will move on to Act 1, Scene 3 very shortly. Thanks for listening.